Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us for the learning of Torah Hashem, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbach. As always, we begin B'Rishus D'Mar Asra of Ratberg with continued appreciation to all of you for coming and making this year possible. We start always with appreciation to TorahAnytime.com for making this amazing platform that people could watch the share from 180 countries, and to Chazak for publicizing the share around the world. We also welcome in our listeners on Kol HaLashon, on our Zoomers that are joining us here this evening, and our viewers on Facebook as well. Tonight's share is being sponsored by my dear Talmud, Dr. Black, whose Shver's Yortzeit is tonight. Pinchas Aaron ben Yisrael, his neshama should have an aliyah. He should have a lichtige Gan Eden, and he should be a melitz yosher for his family, for all of us, and all of Klal Yisrael. We received via this, I think the first sponsor I received via messenger, my dear friends in Baltimore, Frank and Daniela Storch, whose Shver had a stroke, Yechiel ben Miriam Leah. You should have a refuah shalema b'seich sha'acheli Yisrael. And we also learned the refuah shalema for Mordechai Tzvi ben Sarah Rachel. Vayeyavek ish imai ad alois hashachar. And the man wrestled with him, with Yaakov, until the dawn. We all know that the ish is said to be the Sarah shel Esav, otherwise known as Samuel. Many people don't pronounce Samuel, and many people say just the Sam. The Samuel, or the Sam, or Samkel, some people say, is known to be the Malach HaMoves, and hence the name Samkel, the poison of the Almighty. The Malach HaMoves is the poison of death of the Rebbeinu Shalom. And that's the idea that at this point, when Vayivasar Yaakov Levadai, the Malach HaMoves came to take Yaakov. And hence the great lesson, Vayar ki lo yachaloi, he could not prevail. And as we learned in today's daf, an amazing stroke, in today's daf, it says Yaakov Avinu lo meis. That's what Rabbi Yitzchak tells Rav Nachman, that although eulogizers eulogized him and embalmers embalmed him, and they seem to have buried him in the Maras HaMachpelah, but Yaakov Avinu lo meis, because Yaakov had the total foil of the Malach HaMoves, because Barasi Yetzahara, Barasi Torah Tavlana, and Yaakov was the Ishtam Yoshev Halim, who learned in Shem Ve'ever 14 years without sleeping, and therefore the Malach HaMoves could not succeed with Yaakov. Well, we know that the Gemara Bava Basra tells us that it's really the Malach HaMoves wears three hats. Hu HaYetzahara, Hu HaSatan, Hu HaMalach HaMoves. And therefore, the Klayakar over here gives us a penetrating insight into the meaning of Samael. And that is that Samael is Lisame, to blind. Because that is the method of the Yetzirah to blind a person from the truth about this world. And indeed, the Klayakar says that that's the meaning of Vayeyavek Ishimai, that he kicked up avak, kicks up dust to blind a person. That's what they did sometimes to when they were fighting in a spear battle or in a knife battle on horseback. They would have their horses kick to try to push dust into the eyes of the enemy and blind him. So that's the V'ye'avek Ishimai, the avak, to kick up the dust, is that the Yetzer Hara's, one of his great machinations is to blind us from the truth in this world. And as we head to Chanukah, this is of course the meaning when it says, Choshech ze Yavan. Darkness, that's Yavan. That's what it says in the Medrash in Bereshis Rabbah. Choshech ze Yavan. Now, at first glance, Choshech and Yavan have nothing in common. Yavan, Yaft Elokim liyefes, Yafyusai shel yefes, the greatest beauty, the pinnacle of beauty of yefes, Yavan Shema. So, Yavan represents bright lights, glow, the zenith of beauty. But that's Choshech. That's really darkness. Because if we fall for that beauty, the light of the fire of the Olympics is still lit by the torch in Athens, Greece. If we fall for that glow, that's the glow of everything fleeting, and that glow takes us away from the next world. The Olam Hazeh doimeh leprosdor lifnei Olam haba, that this world is really to prepare for the next world. It's the Yetzer Hara's pursuit throughout life to distract us and to blind us from that truth. It's the great cloak that cloaks people, that leads them astray and causes them to waste their lives. And that's why when people ask, how come in our day of halogen bulbs, in LED lights, in our day of mercury vapor lights, we're still lighting the relatively pathetic flickering wicks of oil? But that's specifically the message, that it's the ancient Torah represented by who wants to become Chacham Yadrim, because the Chachma is in the menorah on the Darim, the house that has the glow of Torah, the 36 lights representing the 36 hours that Adam Arishan and Chava enjoyed Olam Haba until they were kicked out, because in Olam Haba that Shabbos there was no night. That's why it doesn't say on Shabbos Vayihera Vayivoker Yom HaShabbos. There was no night in Gan Eden, so they enjoyed the Oragonis for 36 hours. That's why we light 36 candles in total. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is 36. Somebody who focuses in their home on the Or of the Torah, Kol HaRagel B'ner Avyin Leibanim Talmidei Chacham. There are houses that the center of their home is a big screen television, and then there are houses where the center of their home is a swarm shank. Kol HaRagel B'ner, if they have the glow of Torah in their home, and the only television that they have is TorahAnytime.com, then Havyin Leibanim Talmidei Chachamim. And that's why, since Samael is Lisame, is to blind, that's why we should be very careful with Kedushas Einayim and to do things to elevate our eyes. As I said many times, when Rav Shach says he lived long because he always benched from a bencher, it's not just that when you bench and you see the words Ois Machkimois and it's able to have more kavana. It's because if you bench by heart and you daven by heart, then your eyes are not getting in the mitzvah of the 3 daraises and 1 darabanan of benching. And your eyes are not getting a chelik in ula avdoi b'chol avavchem, eza avodah shi b'leiv eviyam ezu tefillah, when you daven by heart. And we want to do whatever we can to elevate our eyes, to counteract the fact that the Yetzer Hara is always working to pollute our eyes. That Samael is Sameh. And that's why if a person uses his eyes to notice things about his spouse or her spouse to compliment, that's a great use of eyes. You know, you tell your wife, you look very pretty in those shoes. A woman likes that. You tell your wife, you're looking especially pretty today. That's a very big thing. Very big thing. Or you know something? I thought I was used to your cooking, but this is especially good. I'm really enjoying this. It's a very important thing. And when we use our eyes to compliment, to notice, to be perceptive, it's very important because our eyes are targeted by the Yetzer Hara. It says, Im Lovan Garti, V'taryag mitzvah shamarti, V'loi lomadati mimaisim roim. With Lavan I lived, and I kept the Taryag mitzvahs, and Rashi says, and I didn't learn anything bad from him. It seems to be that that's a superfluous statement. It already says I kept the Taryag mitzvahs. That means the Ramach mitzvahs asay and the Shin Samachay mitzvahs lois asay, whatever it means. Of course, he couldn't do all of them. He didn't do kibbut avein. And he wasn't in Eretz Yisrael. He couldn't do the mitzvahs. What do you mean, Taryag mitzvah shamarti? So most of the Mefarshim mean shamarti means I pined to be able to do them. And if you pine to be able to do them, like the Aviv Shamar Es Hadavar, he hoped for the fulfillment of Yosef's dream. When you hope to do something, Chishav Lasas Mitzvah, V'nenis, it's as if you did it. So whatever it means, but he did, and he wanted to do, and he aspired to do all 248 positive commandments and 365 negative commandments. Obviously, V'loi lamadati mimaisa haram. Obviously, you didn't learn anything. If you did everything right, you didn't learn anything bad. And therefore, the Mefarshim say, it must be that even if you do all Taryag mitzvahs, you could still do bad things. As the Ramban says, a person could be novel b'rishus HaTorah. A person could be living despicably, even within the confines of the Torah. It's called a novel b'rishus HaTorah. So Ramban says, what's an example? It's interesting to see the Ramban's example. Ramban says a person could marry 50 wives. Not like Shlomo HaMelech that had a cheshbon. A person could marry 50 wives to have a good time. He's not doing any Yisr in the Torah. Not doing any Yisr. But he says if he's going to be involved day and night in the pleasures of the flesh, so that's a novel b'rishus HaTorah. When we let the Yetzer Hara cloud our eyes, the Yetzer Hara could make us that all our life is wrapped around that which is in this world. And we said many times that Yishmael was a mitzachek, an Oved Avodah Zarah. He did Gilui Arayos, he did Shvichas Damim, and yet we called Yitzchak Yitzchak. And Rav Sher gave the answer that a mitzachek, an Arab, lives to laugh now. A Yitzchak lives to laugh in the future. And that's the whole difference. The Samael tries to blind us from thinking about what are we putting away for the future, giving tzedakah, a big part of our budget, doing for others. There's a Shalah Kaddish. This is an important point about Samael. There's a Shalah Kaddish. The Shalah Kaddish says that the composition of Samael is Sam-El, because even the Koyach HaTumah of Sam can only exist by drawing the Koyach from El. And he said the idea is to separate the Sam from the El. And if you could do that, then the Sam will drop dead and will disappear. Now, I believe that this Shalah is the reason why Hasidim say the Sam. They don't say Samael. Because if you succeed in separating the Sam from the El, then you cut off its Yanika. So it happens to be that the most direct way the Shalah says is Torah. Barasi Yitzhahara Parasi Torah Tavnla, and the Shalah says the Kedushas HaTorah separates the Sam from the Ale, and then it can't affect us. But Rabbi Elimelech Milazhensk had a son, the Goin Rabbi Eliezer Lipa, and in his Sefer he writes a different way to disconnect the Sam from the Ale and to render it powerless. And he says that's to make Achdus in Klal Yisrael, Achdus around us. Because he says that when you make Achdus, you turn the Mem of Sam into a Mem Sophis. Because a Mem Sophis is one block and it's all connected. It's all closed. It's all biyachad. And if you make the Mem into a Mem Sophis, then you separate the Sam as a separate word, and it becomes Sam is one word and El is another word. It disjoints them, it disconnects them, and then the Sam doesn't bother us because it loses its koyach. And he says, the amazing thing, he says that's why Shas starts with Mem, an open Mem, Meimosai Kairin, and it ends in Uksin with Hashem Yevarech Es Amoi Vashalom with an end of Mem. Because if you succeed with the Torah Kedusha from taking the open Mem of the Samuel to make it a closed Mem. And he says that's pshat in the pasuk Hoikol Tzomei L'chula Mayim Ein Mayim El Torah. Mayim starts with an open Mem but ends with an end of Mem. When you learn Torah, you succeed. We succeed in closing up the Mem of the Samuel to disconnect it, making it Sam and then Kel. This is great people who are saying this, and of course this is to our tremendous benefit. That we know today, especially there's such a Yetzer Hara all around us, in our phones, in our computers, all around in the streets. He wants to say that's Pshat in Rashi. Rashi says, Lama zeh tisha l'shmi. Why do you ask me my name? The Pashup Pshat in what the Malach said is, why you ask me my name? I am a man of many disguises. I come in many ways. Sometimes I come as a Talmud Chacham, and I say it's a mitzvah. Sometimes I just push you to be lazy. I come with many. Sometimes I want you to go to Cancun, and I'll get you to sin over there. I'm a travel agent, Sometimes I have many. Sometimes I come in the guise of a cigarette person. And I want you to have a cigarette. I want you to drink too much. I have many disguises. But again, Rabbi Elimelech's son says, Lama zeh tishel l'shmi, ein lanu shem kavua. Sometimes I'm Samuel, sometimes you succeed in closing the mem, and then you turn it into two words and you disconnect them. I mentioned this in my shul between Mincha and Mariv, that it says min abo b'yodoi, that he took from what came into his hand. So the simple meaning is that when he was giving the gift to bribe Esav, he didn't pick out good stuff, because he didn't want to give him the good stuff. The good stuff is for Hashem. As Hevel did, he took from the cream for Hashem, not to give to Esav, not to give to the Koyach HaTamah. Whatever came, he gave to him. Others say that min abo b'yodoi means he gave him balimumin. And how does it mean in abo b'yodoi? So there's a pasuk in the gifts that is an unusual pasuk. Every word in the pasuk ends with an endamem. Izim mosayim utyoshim esrim, rechelim mosayim, ve'elim esrim. Every word ends with an endamem. So Rabbeinu Ephraim says there's 8 endamems to be meramis to the 8 kings that will come from Esav before there's a king by Klal Yisrael. That's Rabbeinu Ephraim. That's the mem, malach. But the Balaturim and the Medrash Seichel Tov both say the 8 endamems show that all of these animals, mem and endamem is mem. Mem is mem, is mum. All the animals had a mum. You'll say, but a guy, because it says that Yaakov didn't want him to offer them to Avodah Zarah. But you could offer a Balmum to Avodah Zarah. They did. But the Mefarshim say that the animals were treifas. How did Yaakov know that they were treifa? Treifa was internal. If it was external, Esav would be insulted. So they say because it says min habo b'yonai, and a healthy animal runs away. Since they came to him, he knew that there was something wrong. He knew that they were a treif. That's the pshat that they say. So tonight, after davening, one of my Gevaldige Balabatim, Reb Waldner, told me a pshat that he heard many years ago, that when you do smicha on the animal, you push it down with all your might. If the animal stays down, it shows that it's machniya to the Eibishter and it's a kosher animal. If the animal pops up, then that's a sign it's not machniya, and they were choshid, it was a treifa. So that's pshat min habo b'yodai. It came down with his hand. It didn't pop up. He knew excuse me, min habo b'yodai. He pushed it down and it popped up. It was bo b'yodai. He knew that it was a treifa. Okay, but l'maisa is the Balaturim says another pshat in min habo b'yodai. So interesting. Mama shibim panim l'Torah. The Balaturim says another pshat in min habo b'yodai. He says min habo b'yodai means that that it's stuff that's srurois b'yodai, and that's gems. And he gave Asa, besides the animal, he gave them precious gems. Min habo b'yodai. And of course, the Balaturim doesn't rest on just that pshat. The Balaturim tells us a gematria. It says mincha habo b'yodai. Mincha is b'gematria 103, and avonim, gems, are also 103. So he says that's min habo b'yodai. And here, there's an Ibn Ezra that if you don't know how to interpret it, you'll never figure out what this. I guarantee you could work on it 1,000 hours, and you'll never figure out what the Ibn Ezra means. The Ibn Ezra says that he gave him mace v'raglav b'seichai, something dead with the feet inside it. What does that mean? He gave him margolius, pearls. Because pearls is mace, mem at the beginning and suf at the end, with raglov inside. You take mace and you put raglov inside, it reads margolius. So that's the Ibn Ezra's riddle, mace v'raglav b'seichai. I wanted to say that this is a little bit of maybe a good idea for jewelers to daven in mincha for hatzlacha with their avonim tovim, since mincha is b'gematria avonim. Anyway, hatzileni no. It's amazing. It's already 23 minutes. Hatzileni no. I have to speak faster. Hatzileni no miyad ochi miyad Esav. Save me from my brother, from Esav. Of course, it seems to be totally superfluous, so totally redundant. He only had one brother. So why does it say miyad ochi miyad Esav? It should either say miyad ochi or it should say miyad Esav. So there is a roikeach. The roikeach says that when Yaakov ran away, Esav had a boy and he called him Ochi. And the reason why I called him Achi is he shouldn't forget what his brother did, to keep the hatred before him. And this Achi, he commanded from childhood on, it's your job to kill your uncle. So Yaakov said, according to Rekeach, Hatzileni no miyad Achi miyad Esav. The Eitzra Plois, I saw in a footnote, asks on this, that it's difficult because later when it talks about the children of Esav, it doesn't mention Achi. He answers maybe b'derech doichik that since he was mentioned here, he doesn't have to be mentioned. But it's a rekeach. The rekeach is a rishon. We have such an idea that's why Leah gave the name Yehuda, that she should always remember, whenever she said the name Yehuda, she should always remember that she has extra more than everybody else. That's the idea of Eliezer, Elikei Avi Bezri, Ve'atzileni Mecherev Paro. That's the idea of the name Ganesha. The name Ganesha, if it's spelled Gimel Nun Shin Hey, it's usually given where a baby had the cord wrapped around its neck, and the baby's life was saved. So that's Ganesh is Neis Gadol HaYasham. There's a great miracle there. Right? So there's an idea, and we know the 10 sons of Binyamin were all given that Binyamin should never forget that his brother was not around. Here he did it the other way around. He named him Achi, they shouldn't forget his sinner. So Hatzileini no miyarochi miyaresav, that would explain the redundancy. We know there's this famous Beis Halevi. The Beis Halevi, I think everybody heard, I've mentioned it many times in this year, that Hatzileini no miyarochi miyaresav means, save me if Esav is good to me, if he's acting like an ach, because then I'm going to learn from him, and I'm going to assimilate. And save me miyad Esav when he acts like an enemy, because then he could kill me. And it says first, Tatzileini na miyad achi, because he's more dangerous. You know, Esav wanted to stick with him. I'll give you some people. And Yaakov said, no, it's not la'iti. I don't want anybody. He's more dangerous when he's a friend. Because think about it. What's worse, Hanukkah or Purim? On Purim, when it was a threat of hate, of annihilation, so then the only casualty we suffered was Daniel, was Hasach. Besides that, not one Jew died. Hanukkah, thousands upon thousands, even amongst the children of the Maccabees. Thousands upon thousands of Yidden died. Because there the threat was assimilation. The beauty. The silent Holocaust, how it's cost us assimilation. Families are no longer Yidden. What a terrible thing. Hatzileini no miyad achi. So the Chassam Sofer says, I'll give you a mashal to explain this. He says there was an argument between the wind and the sun, which one was more powerful. An argument between the wind and the sun, which one is more powerful. So they decided they're going to see who could cause a person to be removed of his coat. So the wind started blowing a tempestuous storm, a veritable tornado. And the man clutched his coat and held it to him. Then the sun came out, the chamimus. And it got very hot until he had to take off his coat. He says the danger of chamimus, of the warmth of the goyim, is much greater of a danger than the storm caused by the goyim. Storm caused by the goyim sometimes makes us frummer. But when we're exposed to their warmth and their ways, many times people get lost. And we have to be very, very concerned about this. Heim on levodod yishkain, uvagoyim lo yischashav. They say over a vitz, but it's so true. Many of the Bali Musa say this. Im loven garti, v'tayag mitzvah shamarti, v'eicher ad ota, v'hili shar v'chamar. They asked Yaakov, how were you able to not be influenced by Lavan? And the answer is because I viewed him as a shar v'chamar. A hili shar v'chamar. If we look at a guy, and we look at his pleasures, and we compare him to an animal enjoying the grazing, frolicking happily in the mud, we know we're something better than that. There's more to the world than just caviar. There's more to the world than just the Riviera. Vayomer Yaakov el Beisai vel kol asher imai hasiru es Elohei hanecher asher b'seichecha. Remove the foreign idols in your midst. The Rabbeinu Ephraim says a spectacular gematria over here. And remember, leka mida de loy remiza baraisa, hafoich ba dekula ba, Elohei necher. Remember, that's spelled with an aleph lamed hey yud. Elohei necher is exactly Gematria 316. Yeshu Yes, Yashka, Yeshu, is 3:16. So that's a remez for Yeshu in the Torah. Happens to be that Rabbeinu Ephraim writes that he heard from Rabbeinu this from the Rabbeinu Tam. That the Rabbeinu Tam told him that he was shoyel b'chaloim. He asked in a dream if there is a remez in the Torah for Yeshu and his mother Miriam. Because after all, it caused such terror for the Yidden. It led so many people astray. Is there a remez in the Torah? And he was told, this is what the Rabbeinu Tam, the Baal Taisus, Rabbeinu Tam writes that he was told by the Baal HaChaloim that in the Pasuk in Devarim, Perek Lamed Aleph, Pasuk Tezayin, Elohei Necher Ha'aretz. Elohei Necher Ha'aretz is Bigematria, Yeshu, Umiriam. Exactly. Elohei Necher Ha'aretz is Bigematria, Yeshu, Umiriam. Now there are those that say that the name Yeshu itself stands for Yamach Shemoi V'Zichroi. But it's not so simple. They say over from Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld that Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld said that on a Yid, you never say Yamach Shemoi. And they say that the source for that, he brings a raya, the din is that let's say Ruvain is a Rasha Gomer, and he dies childless. Shimon, in the olden days, has a mitzvah to be miyabim his wife. There's no heter because he's a Rasha. And what's the reason to be miyabim the wife? L'hakim l'achiv shem. So you can't say Yamach Shemai if there's a mitzvah l'hakim l'achiv shem to perpetuate the memory. So Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld says that on a Jew, you don't say Yamach Shemai v'zichra. It could be that Yeshu was a Mesis Madiach. That might be different. Some say that Yeshu stands for Yamach Shemai v'zichra. There's another remez. I'm saying this because it's so interesting that there's nothing that's not rumors in the Torah. Mechir Kelev is also B'gematria Yeshu. Now, at another time, I found another remez in the Torah. We know that they say that it was a virgin birth, their claim, because they translate a pasuk wrong in the Torah. But there is a remez in the Torah that they'll claim that there's going to be a virgin birth. It says, Ki yisischa achicha ben imecha. Now that pasuk is really a pella, that when you'll be enticed by your brother, the son of your mother. Everybody, there's a big pella. Why does it say the son of your mother? And if it's the son of your father, it doesn't apply the din of a mesis. But it's a remez that there will come a yisischa ben achicha, there'll come a child of your family, in other words, a yid, ki yisischa achicha, who will claim that he's just a ben imecha, who will claim that he's just the son of a mother and not the son of a father. So there you have a remez for Yeshu in the Torah and the whole story. Now the next story, it's a true story, it's well documented, but it carries volumes of lessons. Vayomru, the brothers defended their actions to destroy the city of Shechem. Hakizayna yasa es achiseinu? Should they treat our sister as if she was a zayna? So in the Ir Ustraha, I would assume that this is somewhere in Belarus, because that's where Pinchas Mikoritz was from Shklov. So in the Ir Ustraha, there was a terrible plague, a magefa. Terrible plague. And the two great tzaddikim in the city was Rab Pinchas Mikoritz, the great Rab Pinchas Mikoritz, and Rab Yaakov Yosef from Ustraha. And in thinking about what takana needs to be made, there was a difference of opinion between them. Reb Yaakov Yosef from Ustra felt that the plague happened because the girls, the women were occupied in Schaira, and they were frequently with Goyim, and they would find themselves be miyached with the Goyim. And he felt that Hashem was very displeased with that trend and brought the plague. On the other hand, Rav Pinchas Mikaritz was of the opinion that it was because people were talking during davening, and their Kedushas Beis HaKnesses was very, very, very weak. So they decided to take out a Chumash and open up a Chumash to see which one was right. So they opened up the Chumash to this week's Parsha, to the Pasuk of Vayomer HaKezoyna Yaseh Sachayiseinu. So right away, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef and Ustra said, you see, I'm right. The girls, they're acting like Zionis. They're not, lahavdil, relatively. Right? They're not being tznius enough. They're hanging around the Goyim and fraternizing with the Goyim in business. So Reb Pinchas Mikaritz, and it takes a Goyim to see this. Reb Pinchas Mikaritz showed him, look at the Targum Yerushalmi on the Pasuk. And it's really a pella. The Targum Yerushalmi, if you have a sophisticated Mikrais Gedolos, so you'll see in the Targum Yerushalmi, it says that the brothers said to Yaakov, how could it be to have a misamer b'knishta in the Yisrael b'beis midrashayim, that they will speak in the synagogues and in the study halls that our daughter is a Zayin, that our sister is a Zayin. But the pasuk starts, the Targum Yerushalmi starts off with the words to have a misamer b'knish on the Yisrael b'beis midrashayim, that they're talking in the shuls and the study halls. So you see that it came out because of talking in the shuls and the study halls. So they came out that the plague happened for these two reasons. And in Shemayim they were masking for both the reasons. Now, why I thought this is not just a historical vignette. Here we are, we're still in the throes of COVID. Many people are still very afraid of the COVID. And many people are suffering from COVID. And here we see that a magefa is linked to talking in shul. People say, talking in shul, come on, it's very it's very overrated. You know, there's so many serious sins. Talking in shul, people make light of it. It's a shtick. You know, they say, save us, old age stands for shtiki yafa b'shas hatfila. And here you see way back, hundreds of years ago, they proved with a ma'aser that was clearly min hashamayim that one of the reasons of a serious plague was because of not respecting the Kedushas Beis HaKnesses. And I feel that it's almost a certainty that one of the reasons why people were in shul for over a year with masks, the Rabbi Shalom says, if you can't keep your mouth shut, I'm going to throw a mask on it. And then you're not going to be able to talk. There's no question about it that the Rabbi Shalom was sending us such a news. And to compare it and give it the same footing as a lack of tznius. On the other hand, this, in today's day and age, where women are clawing to be in every area equal to men, some forget the meaning of kol kvuda bas melech panima, that a woman has to be careful, especially, men shouldn't fraternize too much with goyim either, but a woman especially. And they have to be very careful in today's day and age. V'timna ha'isa pelegesh le'esav achiv. Timna was a concubine to Esav, his brother. So there's a Gemara in Sanhedrin on Daf Samach Tes Amud Beis. The Gemara in Sanhedrin on Daf Samach Tes Amud Beis tells us she Timna hoysa bas malachim. Timna was a royal princess. And what did she want? Royal princesses, we know today, royalty marries royalty. What did she want? V'rotzasal is Gayer, and she wanted to be Megayer and join the house of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. However, they didn't allow her. V'richaka. They distanced her. V'loi kiblua. So what did she do? She still wanted to join this family. V'holcha v'oisa pilegesh le'elifaz ben Esav. She became a concubine. Here's a royal princess, agrees to be a concubine to Eliphaz. What did she say? For a royal princess to lower herself to be a secondary, not even a wife. Ama mutav tehei shivcha le'umazu v'loite gevira le'uma acheres. I'd rather be a shivcha in the house of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov than a royal person anywhere else. Yotza mimenu Amalek. There came from her Amalek, shetzir es Yisrael, that caused distress for Klal Yisrael throughout the ages. Mishum shelo yalaviseinu l'rachaka. We shouldn't have pushed her away, which has its own ramifications in today's day and age with children off the derech. But that's not our subject. Rav Shalom Shvadron says something really, really important. He says, why did they push her away? Because they saw in her the midah of Amalek. Shalom Shvadron says a story. He says it's in his day it was a well-known story. True story. In the yeshiva in Radin, there was a bacher that was suspected of serious sins. Although it doesn't say it, it sounds like he was suspected of some immorality. Yet the Chavetz Chaim refused to send him away from the yeshiva. There was another boy that ate kest. Remember kest, when they ate by people's houses? They didn't have a kitchen. Ate kest in one of the houses, and the woman that ran one of the houses, who had the boys over, said to Chavetz Chaim that this boy was very chutzpahdik, probably was a few times. Chavetz Chaim said to Ranhola to tell him to pack up his bags and leave. They asked the Chavetz Chaim, maybe the Ranhola asked him. Here was a boy suspected of immorality, he could stay, and he was a little chutzpahdik to the woman, or a lot chutzpahdik. That's a more serious sin that you kick him out? So the Chavetz Chaim says, it says it in the Mishnah, it says in Pirkei Avos, Az ponim legehenim, the one who is chutzpahdik, the one who has, how do you pronounce it? Impudence, right? Impudence goes to Gehenna. Boishes ponim legan Eden. So the Chavetz Chaim asked the kasha. What does it mean, as ponim legan? What if he does tshuva? And if he doesn't do tshuva, every sin goes to Gehenna. Why does it say as ponim legan? So the Chavetz Chaim says it must be that the person that is by nature an azponim is not likely to do tshuva. And therefore he goes to Gehenna for all his sins. So Reb Shalom Shvadron said he wondered that the Chavetz Chaim probably would not say that on his own without a makor. So he said he looked and he found it in Masechtas Kala. And that's not something that everybody learns. It's not on the beaten track. In Masechtas Kala, Perek Beis, it says the following mimer. Rabbi Yehuda Omer az ponim leGehenna. The one who is impudent goes to Gehenna. My time with Rabbi Yehuda. The cave on the Meir's ponim, because since he's so chutzpahdik, nikra Rasha v'Rasha leGehenna. Asks Mesechtes Kala, Ul Rabbi Yehuda asa tshuva mai. What if he does tshuva? Amalei ein le'eis ponim tshuva. One who's very chutzpahdik is not likely to do tshuva. Mamish what the Chavetz Chaim said. And therefore they felt, this is where Reb Shalom learned, they felt that in this woman, Timnah, by the way, if you notice the Chochmah in the name, Timnah, Tov Mem Nun Ayin, is the same letters as Monata. You withheld her. Because that happened to her. She was withheld from coming into Klal Yisrael. That's why it's so important to stamp out early Azus in children. Vayasem es this is very interesting. Vayasem es hashvachos ves yaldeim rishayna. He put the maidservants and their children first. Ves Leah v'yiladeha achrayim. Then Leah and her children afterwards. Ves Yosef, ves Rachel, ves Yosef achrayim. And then last, all the way in the back, far away from Yosef, he put Rachel and Yosef. So Rabbi Eliyahu Schlesinger from Yerushalayim asks a penetrating question. It's a very penetrating question. He says, next week's parsha we're going to learn that because of the two slum of the, Crayola cloak that Yaakov gave Yosef, the Shvatim were jealous and hated him and ended up selling him. How come they weren't jealous over here that Yaakov put him all the way in the back and gave him the biggest protection? Why over here weren't they jealous? That's his kasha. So the pasha to answer, I thought, is because here he did it because of Rachel. They knew Rachel was his favorite wife. That didn't have anything to do with Yosef. He was putting Rachel in the back, so of course he puts Rachel in the back and put her children in the back. Or you could say, Leah died at 44. Rav David Feinstein, Zech Tzadik L'Vracha Zchus Yagan Aleinu, said once that Leah, if she would have been alive, her influence would not have allowed the Shvatim to sell Yosef. It's only because she died that the Shvatim were able to sell Yosef. That's right, Reb David. If you want to know where that's recorded from Reb David, Art Scroll put out a Chumash once, in their regular Art Scroll series, not a stone Chumash, a regular Art Scroll series. They put out a Chumash. In a footnote to the Chumash, they quote Reb David. Rameir Zlotowitz was a Talmud Muvik of Reb David. Reb David was the Pesach of Art Scroll. And Reb David said this, that if Leah would have been alive, there never would have been a Mechiras Yosef. Leah. If Leah would have been alive, Leah died at 44. Rachel died at 36. Leah died at 44. And it's a Seder Adairis. That's why people think they give a name Rachel Leah, it's better. But Rachel and Leah both died young. But maybe if you put them together. But Lamaisa is, Rav Schlesinger gives a different answer to this question. He gives an entirely different spin. Yaakov said, what I was worried about was not that Esau would hurt them. I already had a haftacha from Hashem, Shmaticha b'chol asher telech. I was worried that Esau would influence them. And therefore the older boys had a bigger backbone of Yiddishkeit. I wasn't so worried about them. Yosef, who was younger, I was really worried. That's why I put him in the back. But that's not something to be jealous about. That's the way Rav Schlesinger answers. Interesting. Chap. Then I saw, mamish separately, that Rav Shach was also troubled. And Rav Shach said, you got it wrong. He said, the reason why he put Leah and the children more in the front is because since they made fun of the children as shvachais, so these children already suffered from being made fun of, and in that schus they were more protected. So Rav Shach says, a very interesting word from Rav Shach. Vayomer el Yaakov, kum alei beis el, v'shev sham. Go Beis El, dwell there. V'asei sham mizbeach, make an altar, lekel hanirei lecha. So most people, they read this pasuk and they gloss over the words Vayomer el Yaakov kum alei Beis El v'shev sham. The Ramban. Ramban says, Lo yodati, I don't know mahu v'shev sham. I don't know what the meaning of the words v'shev sham is. It's a Ramban. Lo yodati mahu v'shev sham. He says, v'ulai, perhaps, tziva v'shev sham, before building the Mizbeach, shev sham, lifnois machshavtoi, l'dofka b'ker. Before you build the Beis Mikdash, think about it. Mizbeach, think about it first. Shev sham. And actually the Sifurnai says the same idea. Sifurnai says, shev sham, lechavein daitcha koidem shetivna li mizbeach, to direct your heart. Now this is mamish like Chasidim Rishonim, hayishon sha achas koidem tfilasim. You know, on many Aron Kodeshes, we're going to have it soon in our shul, it's being made. It says, Da lifnei miyata oimeh. That's what you're supposed to do before you daven. Shev sham. Before you do it, you should think. Before saying, Ani Hashem Elokeichem asher hotzeisicha me'eretz Mitzrayim, think I'm being mekayim the mitzvah d'oraisa of to remember Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim b'yom u'b'layla. Many people pause before they say Shema Yisrael to be mekayim the mitzvah d'oraisa of Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim. Now, before we go further, we have a few minutes. It's only 52 minutes, so we could still talk plenty. But I want to ask for anybody who wants to sponsor, 718-916-3100. That's 718-916-3100. Or rmmwsi at AOL.com. rmmwsi at AOL.com. Anybody who wants to receive a weekly MP3 of this share can subscribe also by calling 718-916-3100 or rmmwsi at AOL.com. If you'd like to join our ever-growing Zoom Daf Yomi every night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, you go to zoom.com and put in my cell phone as the meeting ID, 718-916-3100, and it's 8 o'clock and Motzei Shabbos at 8:15. Vatete Dina bas Leah. Dina, the daughter of Leah, went out, and we know that it was a terrible tragedy. She was violated by Shem. The Chidah asks, and many of us wonder, how could such a tragedy happen to a child of the Bechir Sheba'avos? How could such a terrible thing happen to two parents, Yaakov and Leah? How could it be, we ask for Yiddish and Nachas, that such a terrible thing could happen? Furthermore, and this must trouble everybody that's Mavasedra, Yaakov's reaction to the news sounds very blasé. It says, Yaakov Shama Kitime es Dina B'itay. It doesn't say, Vayecharad Charad Gedola. It doesn't say, Vayitzar Yaakov Ad Moves. It doesn't say, Vayisabel Yaakov Yomim Rabin. It doesn't say anything. It says the Chidah. How do you understand this? A very strong question. Very, very strong question. The Chidah answers with the wisdom of the Arizal. The Arizal says that Dinah was a Gilgal of Avram Avinu's mother, Amasloi Bas Karnavai. And Amasloi Bas Karnavai had relations with Terach as a nida. And she came back in a Gilgul to correct this. And that's why Dinah is Oisius Nida, says the Chida, to correct this sin of Nida. And when Shechem had relations with Dinah, he was Mitahir the Zuama. And that's why Yaakov wasn't upset. And he goes on to say, and that's why there was a Taina on Yaakov who knew this, that he should have let Esav marry Dinah. And then instead of her needing to be violated, Esav would have purged her from the Zuama, and maybe Shema Tachzirena Lemutav. Of course, everybody asked, how can you say that? Leah was praised for losing her eyelashes, not to marry Esav, Harasha, and Yaakov was faulted for putting Dinah in a box to hide him from this Russia. Esav at that time was 97, and Dinah was 6. How could Yaakov be faulted for not wanting her to be connected to a murderer, an adulterer, an idolater? Everybody asked the question. Many times in this forum, in this shir, I gave my own opinion that Rashi says an interesting lashon that Yaakov was blamed because he was no'al bifoneha. The lashon of no'al bifoneha sounds like he locked in her face. Dinah wanted to marry Esav. She felt she could be Mekarv. Yaakov was no'al bifoneha. If he just hit her, why did he have to lock it? Nobody knows she's in a box. If he locked it, it was bifoneha because of her. Dinah wanted to. Now don't think Dinah had special powers. How many girls do you know that a person is so mad about her that he's willing to circumcise his whole city? Ever think about that? Shechem was willing to cut up his whole city. And he convinced everybody to do that. Dinah had a magnetism and a charisma and something in her that was very powerful. Other Bali Musas say that he's not faulted for hiding her, but he felt good about it. He didn't feel a pain that maybe he could do something for his brother. Because if he did, then if Esav was good, he might be having gvir la'achecha. Others say that Leah was the daughter of a Rasha, but Dinah was the daughter of two tzaddikim. But the Chidah adds, this is so interesting, the Chidah adds that don't withhold her. You knew that she needed to go through something like this. There's a Sefer Chesed Lavram by the Mekubal Rav Azuloi, who writes a remarkable thing. It's brought down in the Oitzer Aplois. It's very hard to understand this, but it just shows what a checkered life Dinah had. He says Dinah lived over 1,000 years, longer than Serach Bas Asher, and was married to 7 people. She was married, according to Rav Azulai, to Shechem, to Shimon, that we know from Rashi. She had from Shimon Shol ben Aknanis. She was married to Eiv, that's a Gemara in Bava Basra. She was married to Novel, to David, to Turnus Rufus, and her last husband was Rabbi Akiva. That's Rav Azulai. After Rachel, according to this, Rabbi Akiva was married to Dinah. So she had a long and very, very complicated history. Rabbi say we just hit an hour. Again, I want to remind you that I am looking, Yetz Hashem, I'll be going to Rabbi Shainer's shul in Monsey for Hanukkah, for Shabbos Hanukkah. I'll be going out to Mark Frankel in Philadelphia for Monday of Hanukkah, broadcasting the daf from over there. and I'll be speaking in London Wednesday by Zoom on Hanukkah. We're looking to step up our speaking engagements in different cities, and if people could bring it to fruition. As you know, I have a new wonderful Gabbai, Daniel Green. Please connect with him. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a wonderful night and a wonderful Shabbos.